morning, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of Fantasy Football Live. I'm Amanda Borges, and joining me here on set, as always, Andy Behrens, Brad Evans, back from Cleveland.
Out alive!
Hank Williams, how did you make it out alive?
Like a wrecking ball!
I thought you'd be in jail after that beatdown your former employer, the Tennessee Titans, levied on Cleveland.
Yeah, the hate was real in Cleveland, but, I made it out alive,
Tighten up, tighten up!
We were nervous for a while, but I'm glad you're
I was
back.
very nervous.
I'm glad you're back.
Glad to be back.
To the set.
Thanks.
Welcome
All the
to
field.
All the fields. And of course, rounding out our group of experts is the dynamic duo in our LA studios, Liz Loza and Matt Harmon. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Amanda.
The best hair on the internet.
The best hair
That's it.
on the internet.
That's all we've got for you.
Nice and simple. Love it. And in the very important beat department is our own Bebop Rock Steady.
Good morning. Another Sunday morning, and we out here again.
Oh, man. I'm feeling very special that was played twice, two times in a row. All right. Love it. First things first, guys, who's in and who's out today? Bengals running back Joe Mixon is active despite the ankle injury. In Baltimore, Mark Andrews did not practice Friday, but the Raven is active. Chargers wideout Mike Williams is active, but reportedly will be limited to red zone situations in Detroit. And Antonio Brown will make his Patriots debut against the Dolphins in South Florida. Guys, before we get to Antonio Brown, do any of those names stick out to you?
I'm getting a ton of questions about Joe Mixon, and I don't know why. Look, he's got a garden variety low ankle sprain. He was reportedly wearing fuzzy slippers on the plane last week, so he's all good.
Yeah.
If you're wearing fuzzy slippers, you need to be in your fantasy lineup. He's going to get a full complement of touches. I would not upgrade Gio Bernard. I think he's comfortably a top 15 play in a game that I think Cincinnati's going to come out and put a mollywhopping, to use your term, on the San Francisco 49ers.
I mean, we'll see. That 49ers defense looked pretty good last week against Tampa Bay, so hopefully that ankle holds up. But if not, and Gio Bernard cuts into some of that volume, then
Not too worried about it. Play him.
Well, we do have to talk about AB, not the two ABs here.
No, it's true.
Because we're all good.
the best ABs.
The best ABs. We are pretty
Many are saying it.
sick and tired of talking about the other Antonio, or the other AB, Antonio Brown. He's obviously the biggest story of the day. What do we see him doing today in Miami?
Well, we got a blueprint here for how the Patriots like to install new weapons, and it was with Josh Gordon last year, coincidentally, against this same Miami Dolphins team. And Gordon played on just 22.7% of the snaps in his Patriots debut last season. Had a couple of targets, couple of receptions, just over 30 yards. I know that Ian Rappaport report is out there saying, hey, we want to, get him highly involved early on, but this game's going to get out of control. I mean, the Patriots are favored by 18. I think he's going to be limited. I think it's insane to consider him even a wide receiver 2. I got him at wide receiver 41, and I still feel that might be too bullish. So if you've got a John Brown to lean on, for example, I'd much rather have that Brown over AB, knowing that the Patriots are going to ease Antonio in.
Yeah, I've got him at wide receiver 39. I can't really imagine more than, say, 25 to 30% of the snaps, and that's probably in the first half. And then, is it still a game in the second half? Do we really need much Antonio Brown? I don't think so.
No. Right. I mean, and that's the thing. When we came in, we talked about, we both said he'll probably get about 20 snaps. I figured maybe about 5 to 7 targets. He may get in the end zone to try to justify the deal. But you didn't hear this from me, but I heard somebody rank Antonio Brown at the number 10 wide receiver in fantasy this week. And what is you smoking?
All right, we'll get to that. But remember, this show's all about you. So get your roster questions answered either on social media. You can hit up at Yahoo Fantasy using the AskFFL hashtag, or you can call in. The number is 877-FFL-GURU, and we'll get to as many as we can. So give us a call very shortly. We are going to send it back down to LA and see if Matt and Liz can help you all try to get those rosters right for week 2. Hey, guys.
Well, we can certainly try our best. I guess that's why it's like our job, right, to answer these questions.
I mean, it's like a small part of our job. We're probably going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Manage our expectations.
And with that, let's queue up the first one here. We have a PPR Need One question from Neil.
Woo-hoo!
We've got a great group of goofballs here. We've got Randall Cobb, Gio Bernard, David Montgomery, or Jordan Howard. He needs one in a PPR. Liz, Which way are you leaning?
I mean, first of all, I love that this guy's handle is at the Turd Slinger because RIP your season, bro. You know what? I am going to go with David Montgomery. I am going to assume, and this is a horrible assumption, rational coaching from Matt Nagy. He's had extra time to review this tape. I just can't play any of those other guys. Talent is a tiebreaker for me. It's Montgomery.
I was thinking I was going to agree with you, but I've decided to go a different direction here. I'm going to go with Randall Cobb.
Shocking that Matt decides to change his mind at the last minute. Never does this happen.
That is stunning. Mr. Consistent here, Matt Harmon. I'm going to go with Randall Cobb, actually. I think that whole Dallas Cowboys offense is really interesting. I like the way they set up against Washington's defense, and he just looked like a revived player in week 1. So good luck, Turd Slinger, or whatever your handle was.
At the Turd Slinger.
The Turd Slinger. Okay, next question we have here. We have from the KB83, Yahoo half PPR need 2. Adam Thielen, John Brown, Cooper Kupp, and John Ross. I think we actually are on the same page with this one. I'm going to go with John Brown and Cooper Kupp here.
Yeah, I like the upside of John Brown. I think he has a good game. Josh Allen, by the way, a nice streaming quarterback in this matchup. And Cooper Kupp's floor is delectable, which is not something you can say for Adam Thielen anymore when the Vikings only, throw the ball 10 times.
Yeah, pretty rough. You hate to see it. Next question we have here, these ones you guys are throwing at us are tough this morning. We went back and forth about this one a little bit before. Bo Chass asked Chris Thompson or Aaron Jones, but I think we ended up on the same page. I know that the Vikings defense is tough, but I think Aaron Jones is the right call here.
I mean, what is tough about it is that Matt LaFleur is as decisive about starting a running back as I am about eating the poke in the cafeteria. Feels like a good idea, but yes, I also am going to go with Aaron Jones because, again, higher ceiling talent is the tiebreaker here for me.
And our final one is a quarterback question. We have Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. To be honest with you, this one's easy for me, and it's Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is a great quarterback pick this week. I think this whole team is going to be has a good setup against the Steelers defense that looked awful in week 1. I'm going to go Russell Wilson. And remember, he uses the hashtag AskFFL here. Our friend Scott Pinowski is on Twitter answering all of your questions right now, so just make sure to use that hashtag and he'll get to you.
Well, Matt said everything, so back to you, Amanda.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Miss Consistent. Time now for our Pizza Hut predictions. Our fantasy expert will take a look at some quarterbacks and rate their comfort level in playing each on a 1 to 8 slice scale. You guys were spot on last week. Can we do it again this week?
Unlikely.
Okay.
Hashtag fade the noise.
Let's not bet on that.
Let's start off with our matchups here, and let's go with Josh Allen against the New York Giants. Liz just hit the nail on the head. How many slices does he get? Oh, 7 slices of the
it ought to be, right? The Giants just gave up 400 passing yards. This is a great spot for Josh Allen. He's not even necessarily a great quarterback. It was kind of the typical Josh Allen line last week, a little bit of rushing goodness, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. But man, against the Giants, this could be a multi-touchdown game. You got to assume 3 touchdowns in this one.
Yep.
Chance at 300 combined yards.
Well, and probably the best development for Josh Allen is the fact that he was number 8 in adjusted completion percentage among all week 1 quarterbacks. The bugaboo for him was inaccuracy last year.
Right.
Yeah, he had the 4 turnovers, but he negates all of that because of the rushing stats, as you mentioned, and that Giants secondary. Everybody, with the exception of Janoris Jenkins, allowed at least a 112 passer rating to Cowboys assignments week 1. I got him down for 3 TDs, 1 on the ground, 2 through the air, and close to 300 combined yards. Love him.
By your standards, that is restraint.
It is restraint. Oh, what I'm not restraining is Roethlisberger here. Let's find out against Seattle.
This is a gift.
Give it all up. 8 slices.
Seattle just gave up a huge passing performance to Andy Dalton.
The fist. The ginger fist.
Andy Dalton. Yeah. So yes, this is a get-right week for Ben Roethlisberger. He's at home. We like Big Ben at home. If Dante Moncrief can just catch things this week, he's got an opportunity for maybe 400 plus.
I think James Washington has a breakout performance. The lone highlight in that horrific game at Gillette Stadium was the 45-yard connection from Ben to the second-year wideout at Oklahoma State. I got him down for 300 plus in 3 TDs. This game has got sneaky shootout appeal given the limitations of both secondaries. Then finally, Drew Brees away from the creature comforts of the Superdome. Let's find out. He's going to like, oh, just
we don't agree here.
Two
All right.
slices. That's all I put down. So you would give me the counter argument why you like Drew Brees today.
Well, I know you're going to say that he's no good on the road, but it's just simply not true. He had 3 rough games at the end of last season on the road. I get it. He may have been injured at the time. No road-home split in 2016. No home-road split in 2017. The man just threw for 370 yards, looked great in week 1. This is going to be a shootout of a game. The number's going to come in at 50+. You're going to want to have Drew Brees active this week.
Yeah, road breeze is a foul breeze, and I'm not buying that. Just 7.1 air yards per attempt.
That's the name of Brad's
Superdome
first volume of poetry,
last
by the
year.
way.
So I like the secondary with Aqib Talib, healthy, looks tremendous, still playing at a high level. Roby Coleman, the guy that maybe will get a flag on him this time around against the Saints. Who knows? And then Marcus Peters, still a little bit roasty-toasty, but I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Drew Brees. That's why I'm only giving him 2 slices, Borges. Back to you.
Well, we'll see if you both can keep your perfect slice record intact this week. And remember, you can't have football without the Hut. Let's move on to this week's fantasy freebies. These are players who are started in under 25% of Yahoo leagues that could really help you out this week. So I'll bring Liz and Matt back in for their picks today.
All right, well, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to talk about Devin Singletary, the rookie running back in Buffalo. Everyone was real worked up because he only carried the ball 4 times in week 1. But what he did with those 4 carries was pretty impressive. He averaged 10.9 yards per touch. That was the RB1 for the week. And he ripped off 2 runs. So 50% of his workload for over 15 yards. He also outsnapped Frank Gore and, this is a hat tip to JP Total Junk Yeldon. He was on the field for 70% of Buffalo's snaps. He also got a ton of work in the passing game. He was 3rd in team targets. Yeah, it's Buffalo, so let's not get excited about 3rd in team targets, but still 6 looks. I like his usage here, and the matchup, as the guys already discussed against the Giants, is money. So go ahead, start him with confidence. He's working his way up that roster.
Yeah, I'm going to go quarterback here. Derek Carr, I think, has a shot at a top 10 finish this week. Obviously, we know in week 1 he was really efficient, completed almost 85% of his passes. This week, I think he's actually going to have to push the ball downfield a little more because of the opponent that he's playing. And, of course, we actually have seen Carr perform really well against the Chiefs when they've been in Oakland. He's thrown 3 touchdowns in each of his last 2 starts against the Chiefs when they've been at home. And, of course, we know last week, I mean, come on, the Chiefs, they're still working it out on defense. They allowed the 4th highest net yards per attempt among week 1 defenses to the awesome combo of Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew. I think the way that Oakland passing tree has really condensed to, 3 guys, really, Jacobs, Tyrell Williams, and Darren Waller. I think Carr has a shot at a top 10 finish. There's a lot of guys that I think you probably drafted really high in your fantasy leagues that I'd be starting Derek Carr over this week.
All right, well, last week, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray combined for 7 touchdown passes and over 56 fantasy points. This week, they square off on the same field in Baltimore. So let's put 90 seconds on the clock to discuss the fantasy goodness that will come from this matchup, guys.
Not on the Arizona side. I don't think in this matchup. What's really interesting is the total has been steamed. It opened up at 41. It's up to 46, 46 and a half at some places because of the quick, frenetic pace of both of these squads. I'm down on David Johnson, though he led all running backs in air yards week 1. I think the big story here is obviously Mark Ingram must start material, Lamar Jackson must start material, and Mark Andrews as well. Did we see what TJ Hawkinson did to this defense last week? I think Andrews got a good shot of replicating the 100 yards and a touchdown he logged in Miami last week.
Yeah, Andrews coming off 8 catches, 108 and a touchdown. This is a blow-up spot for him. Even though I think he played only 30% of the snaps last week for Baltimore, but we almost have to throw out the snap count because it wasn't even close to a competitive game.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think Mark Ingram is that guy to play on Baltimore just because Arizona was so bad against the run last year. I mean, I think they were like 28th in touchdowns, giving up there around 20th in yards.
Opposing running backs last year, too.
And the one thing you have to worry about as far as the Baltimore wide receivers is that Hollywood Brown only played 14 snaps.
Yep.
And Boykin only played 18. I mean, so you have to be super efficient in order to get a lot of value out of that ball.
And Hollywood's not 100%. He's still dealing with that hip injury, and he's on a maintenance plan right now. And I'm really curious to see what Kyler Murray does today in this spot. If he blows up at all close to what he did in the fourth quarter and overtime against the Lions, then he's off to the races as a top.
The key is that, Baltimore is going to be down a couple cornerbacks. And so if they go full wide, spread them out and get to some of that cornerback depth, then Murray can have some success.
3 Cardinals receivers last week with 10 or more targets, and one of them was Keyshawn Johnson. So you got to keep an eye on him.
I was able to pick up Hollywood Brown this week, so I hope that he has a repeat performance from last week. Fingers crossed. You don't think that's
Give me the under.
Oh, no! All right, well, the current over-under on that game is set at 46, which is what Brad just said. Not quite as high as some other games today. Let's have the desk look at shootout or shut down, beginning with a game not likely to see a ton of points. This one is just down the road from you in Denver, Brad.
Yeah, Bears fans flooding Denver International Airport when I was flying out yesterday, so it's going to be well attended in navy blue and orange. But Barons, is this the week? Mandatory Montgomery happens. Please tell me yes.
Yeah, I would love to say yes. Mike Davis played 13 more snaps than Montgomery last week. Montgomery, obviously the liveliest back that they had, right? He made the highlight catch of the game, but really only a cameo player. We continue to hear all kinds of positive buzz about him in Chicago, but they won't put him on the field. Really difficult for me to imagine that he sees more than, say, a third of the snaps for Chicago.
And I have to refrain from any Montgomery rebuttal because you know where my heart lies. So
you should be on Montgomery probation.
Real quick, I love the Allen Robinson matchup potentially with Isaac Yiadom, a guy that was really picked on in that Oakland game. He was targeted 10 times, 9 receptions, 123 yards, allowed 4.56 yards per snap. It could be a blow-up game again for Allen Robinson. Let's go to a game that's got a little bit more shootout appeal.
Would that be every game?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, definitely take the under. And I'm kind of tipping my hand on my selection later on with the Bears and Broncos. But Kansas City and Oakland. Now, I think the Raiders are going to be highly competitive in this game. I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park for Kansas City by any stretch. What about Mecole Hardman? Because a lot of people are asking, hey, with Tyreek Hill down, Mecole played 53, 59 snaps. He only had the 1 target, but does he get more involved within the offense and see an increased workload today?
I mean, he can't be less involved, right? He saw 1 target, didn't catch it, that was it. Played a ton of snaps, too. So, no, I don't think he's going to be like a featured component for them. He is the closest thing that they have to Tyreek Hill. He's not Tyreek Hill fast, but he's real fast.
I mean, the thing is that they're going to have DeAnthony Thomas get involved too, but everyone's going to be focused on Sammy Watkins, so this means what? Blow up spot for Kelsey, but then also they should take some shots with Harmon.
And on the other side of the ball, I do love Josh Jacobs. I've been getting a lot of questions about him after his monstrous opener against the Denver Broncos.
That dude had 24 touches. He would go 3 weeks and not have 24 touches.
I don't know, Matt Nagy. Why don't you follow the lead of John Gruden and give your talented rookie the damn ball?
Did I not mention that you were on Montgomery probation, by the way?
Oh, sorry. I think I just popped a blood vessel as a result.
I feel like that doesn't even exist. You can't tell him that.
No, and I love Tyrell Williams too in this matchup as well. Darren Waller.
Darren Waller played every snap last week and is going to see a ton of targets.
And if he sees a lot of Kendall Fuller, that leads to a productive fantasy afternoon.
It'll be a good one for sure. Well, we have to take our first break, but when we get back, we'll go over or under on whether Baker Mayfield can bounce back from his Week 1 blunder. Stay with us.
Come on, Nagy!
Hey!
$7.99 gets you a large 3-top, this box, and a chance to get your game on with Todd Gurley. King Me, one of millions of prizes you could win from Pizza Hut when you play Hut Hut Win. You can't...
over-unders. This is where we take a player and a stat and ask our experts if they'll go over or under that stat. First up is the man who likely woke up feeling dangerous last week, but ended up putting his team in danger with a 43-13 loss to Tennessee. Baker Mayfield had 285 passing yards in that one, so that's the line tomorrow night versus the shorthanded Jets. Over or under, guys, 285.5 passing yards for Baker. Andy?
I gotta say, like, he can do this, obviously, but I don't think this is a competitive enough game for it to happen. I think this is a blow-up spot for Nick Chubb. It wouldn't surprise me if he had 150 total yards, but I don't think Baker gets there again just because I don't think he's gonna have to chuck the ball all game. He's only done this 5 times in 15 career games.
Tank?
Well, I'm going with the over because he may have woke up feeling the bubble guts last week, but he's going to wake up feeling dangerous on Monday night. Now, I understand what Andy's talking about with the game script. I mean, you know, Sam Darnold's out because he's the most popular quarterback in New York right now, kissing everybody on the club scene. But I'm telling you, Freddie Kitchens loves to toss the ball, and so I expect Baker to totally redeem himself this week with the over.
Matt?
Yeah, give me the over on this one, too. Look, the great Adam Gase had many things to complain about outside of his own play calling, of course, from that Week 1 loss to the Bills. One of the things he was upset about was the cornerback play, and I think that's going to be a big problem against Baker Mayfield and these Browns. I really like the entire Browns passing game. I think Odell Beckham comes in a blow-up spot against another New York team here.
We won.
Well, let's stay with Matt and bring back Liz so they can see what you guys are asking on social media. Anything good, guys?
Yeah, we've got a lot of people popping in the chat asking a lot of good. We've got a lot of Cooper Kupp questions here, and the first one I want to bring up is from Mr. Hayes7. Asked in a PPR, would you play Cooper Kupp or Deshaun Jackson?
I mean, this is, do you want the floor? Do you want the ceiling, right? So I would say, you know, the Philadelphia game is expected to be high flying. It's pretty high line on the game, point total on the game. But if I'm looking for the floor, I am going to look for Cooper Kupp. He was second in team targets with 10. He should see double-digit targets again in this one. It is a PPR. I'm assuming 1-point PPR league. So I'm going to lean towards Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think if you are chasing that ceiling, Deshaun Jackson obviously makes a ton of sense. I like your analysis with Cooper Kupp. I think I would go, it just really depends on lineup construction here. So if you need that ceiling, go with Deshaun Jackson. If you need a floor, as Liz says, go with Cooper Kupp. All right, next one comes from Craig Jordan. Running back question. Now, I don't think people would have thought you'd be asking, unless you're really paying attention and you're smart. Couple LA backs here. Todd Gurley or Austin Eckler in week 2?
Well, this one's tough. I have to imagine that with the injuries that the Chargers have suffered in this one, I mean, Mike Williams is not 100%. There's some red zone issues here. That's kind of his job. We saw Austin Eckler find the end zone twice last week. 3 times? Was it 3 times? Yep. Dang. So I am going to lean towards Austin Eckler in this one, even though Todd Gurley in DFS is only $19. That's a nice value. I hope I'm not stealing any of Tank's thunder there. And yeah, I think I'm going to go with Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I mean, give me the guy who has more projected volume, which is Austin Eckler over Todd Gurley. I mean, we might not have thought we'd say that, but here we are at this point already. Denny asked us, tight end question. We've got a lot of T.J. Hockenson questions, but I think this one is interesting for you. It's one of your guys, Mark Andrews or T.J. Hockenson in a PPR.
T.J. Hockenson or
you want me to take it first?
No, I don't need you to take it first, friend. I am going to lean towards T.J. Hockenson. I have to stick with my rankings on this one. He is my tight end 5 for the week. I am not afraid of it. I think we've found something, maybe a little something in Detroit. And so as much as I like Andrews, I just think about the options available, and I like Hawkinson's potential volume.
I'm going to go with Andrews here. I mean, we saw that Cardinals defense let T.J. Hockenson run all the way through it. And
Fair.
I really like the opportunity that Andrews got, probably maybe a little bit more than I expected in week 1 against the Dolphins. Last one here before we toss it back to Sunnyvale. Big running back question. We've got Chris Carson, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, Kerryon Johnson, needs 2 of them. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler here. I really like Chris Carson.
It's a volume issue
It's
here,
a volume
right?
issue, yeah. And I mean, interesting, Kerryon Johnson is the one I think people would have assumed we'd go right to, but.
Well, you'd think after Chris Carson's performance too, especially. But I think you're right. I'm assuming you're saying volume also because we expect Seattle to have to throw the ball even more than Schottenheimer may want to in this one.
Exactly. I mean, you're really spoiled here, Mr. 3D Zinc. Congrats on all your great running back picks. I'm going to toss it back to Sunnyvale. And Brad, a lot of people are really hyped about your well, I don't know if hyped is the right word.
I mean, who are you going to call, Brad?
They're intrigued with your Ghostbusters selection, so feel free to, address that.
Well, I am basically the Egon of this group, so I know Andy Behrens is more. I mean, Behrens is more Venkman. There's no question about that. But I mean, who's the real brainiac here? That's me. Yeah, nobody.
We're not going to answer that right now.
You're the recurrent. Don't worry about it.
All right, it is time to look at some tough flex decisions this week in our Fantasy Flex segment presented by Old Navy. I'll kick it over to Andy and Tank, who are helping fans who used the AskFFL hashtag. They're, of course, sporting their favorite built-in tough Old Navy denim. You have a few lineups in need of some help, guys, right?
It would appear so. Tank frozen in place. He went Han Solo on us real quick there. Let's start with Drew. Let's start with Drew.
Yeah.
He's in a full PPR league. He needs 2 flexes. There's a lot of good options here. Obviously, a blow-up last week from Hollywood Brown. He was great, but you mentioned it, only played 14 snaps. We don't know exactly what he's going to get. Man, that corner situation for Arizona, though. No Peterson, no Alford. That's pretty tempting.
Go ahead and get to my cousin.
I gotta go Tyrell Williams.
Absolutely.
I gotta go Tyrell. Great week last week, 100 yards, touchdown. He's been a 1,000-yard receiver before. I gotta start that guy. Who do you like between James White and Kenny Golladay?
Well, I think Kenny Golladay has a tough matchup with the Chargers, and I think it may be more of a Marvin Jones game this week. So even though I'm expecting Sony Michel to go off, I know James White is going to get a lot of run in Miami, and I know the Pats are going to score a lot of points.
I mean, I feel like we've learned that more than one guy can go off against Miami, right? It
and he like always has a chance to go off, and so I have to go with James White.
Like it?
Love it. On to the next.
All right. Josh needs 1 flex, full PPR. Oh, man, he's got dream PPR options here, too. I would love to have Josh's problems.
This is easy for me.
Is it Kupp?
Yep.
Yeah, it's easy for me as well. The only issue was Stephon Diggs. Obviously, they threw the ball 10 times last week.
Yeah, true.
It's probably going to be a livelier passing game, but 10 times.
But those are tougher defenses, and I know New Orleans' defense is pretty good, but you expect this game to be a shootout, and Kupp is going to be the man that he targets in the middle of the field, in the red zone as the wide receiver, so Kupp is the play.
Crazy recovery from the ACL.
Right. Adrian Peterson-like.
In City, okay. Needs 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. We got a half PPR. I cannot say no to Matt Breida in this spot. I'm just
really sexy flexy. Yeah.
You don't like Matt Breida?
Not out of those options. I do not.
We got no Tevin Coleman. We got a big workload upcoming for Breida. He's going to see 20 touchdowns.
Yeah, Bengals were pretty bad against the run last year too. I understand they were good last week.
A little mustard on your fantasy sandwich. He's still involved there.
Well, I'll make it up to you, and I'll say that I like Michael Gallup in this one too. I think Gallup against the Redskins. Are you kidding me? This is a blow-up spot for him. I like every aspect of the Dallas offense in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I know the thing with Tyler Lockett is that he can blow up and get 2 long catches, 2 long touchdowns, but he just doesn't get the volume. And I think Gallup will probably get more targets.
2 targets for Lockett last week.
The only thing why I think Noise was saying ooh is because Marlon Mack, even though he has a tough matchup against the Titans, he's going to get a lot of volume.
No, I go with the 2 wide receivers, actually.
Oh, really? Well, then we're not talking to you.
We'll give you that one.
And that's a wrap.
All right, thank you very much, guys. And to shop Old Navy's built-in tough denim collection, check out Old Navy.
Don't we look sexy in our Old Navy?
You guys look great.
I
love it.
I need the full body cam to show off my jeans and things.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
There it is.
September over there.
I know, right? We need to give him some
Not
more
humble
time.
at all.
No, not at all. It's time for another round of quick slants. The Saints head west for an NFC title rematch versus the Rams in what could be the game of the day. So let's go to Los Angeles and put 90 seconds on the clock for Liz and Matt, guys.
Well, let's start with the home team. I know that the Rams passing game was a little disappointing in week 1, but this is actually one of these teams, it's a little under the radar how much better they are at home than they are on the road. Goff averages 342 passing yards at home since the start of the 2017 season. It actually leads all quarterbacks. So I'm really high on him as a DFS quarterback. I'm really high on this whole passing game.
Dig it. I think for me also, so you're right, Goff's YPA at home versus on the road since 2017. 7.5 on the road, 8.3 at home. Really appreciate that stat and you pointing that out. But I also think New Orleans is coming off of this is a short week. They're coming off of an emotional win. They had to work very hard. So I think that Goff is going to be able to take advantage of that. I think this is a nice bounce back spot for Brandon Cooks. He usually goes ham in these hashtag revenge situations, and Lattimore doesn't shadow. So there is going to be some opportunity. Man, the minute Eli Apple even comes near Brandon Cooks, he's going to get owned. So I really like Cooks as a bounce back in this one. He's only $21 in our DFS game. And I agree with you on Goff over Breeze. Should we talk about the Saints now? Or is there anything else that you want to touch about?
The great thing about the Saints is that I think we saw in week 1, this is a highly concentrated offense. And Breeze, to his credit, I know it was in the Superdome, but was number 2 in air yards behind only Kyler Murray in week 1. I mean, the great part is we know where the ball is going. It's going to Kamara and it's going to Thomas and pretty much nowhere.
And we saw CMC roll all over the Rams. I will say this defense is a different defense when Aqib Talib is healthy and in the lineup. I'm not going to not start Michael Thomas, but also it is worth noting that Drew Brees didn't throw the ball over 20 yards until he found Ted Ginn in the fourth quarter. So you need to...
Got Aaron Colvin cut!
That's... We'll talk about that game a little bit later, too.
Well, it's Andy's favorite part of the show. Sadly, we're not talking about George Kittle. I apologize for that. Let's direct our attention to Judge Andrew Behrens for this week's Fantasy Court.
All right. Correction. This is my favorite part of the show. I've been waiting like months for this.
I miss how dressing Andy for this segment used to be its own 3-minute segment on the show. Is that what we're calling this? Officially a mullet?
Yeah.
You can still see the Hawkeyes.
Well, I'm not going to cover up the Hawkeyes. Are you kidding me? The 3-0 Hawkeyes, basically in the playoffs already. Our question this week comes from Jason. Jason's got a good one. I got to be honest, I've never actually seen this rule before. He says, finally got our league to do away with trade vetoes, which, good job, those are terrible. But they still allow either team to have second thoughts and back out within 24 hours. I think it's Bush League. Can you undo a drop within 24 hours? Same thing. What say you? Wow, am I in agreement? This is just a terrible rule. And I don't normally advise leagues to scrap a rule once they're already underway and once everything's in process, but I see all kinds of loopholes here. Like, this opens you up to actually just borrow a player ahead of the Thursday game and then give him back. We can't allow that. So at a minimum, you have to change this right away to forbid anybody to give back a player who has actually already played a game. Like, this is terrible. All of the time you need to consider a trade is pre-trade. And then when you smash that accept button, there's going to be a little pop-up that says, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? That's your final moment. That's it. Nothing beyond that. Once a trade is made, maybe I don't mind if just out of sportsmanship you say there's some sort of injury clause here, and if somebody gets hurt right away and it's not game related, you trade them back, fine, okay. I don't like anything else this exposes us to. I hate this rule. I am ordering you at a minimum to scrap it next season.
That is a wild rule. I've never
That's
heard
crazy,
of that.
right? That's
Yeah, that is nutty.
If you would like Andy to keep his wig on for the rest of the show, please say aye.
Aye. What?
Also, remember, if a last-second play or a missed kick costs you your matchup this week, tell us about it. Send in a video to @Yahoo Fantasy using the hashtag FFLBadBeats, and Andy Behrens will try to sympathize with you. It is time now for another break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we return, Liz shows some East Coast bias in this week's fantasy damage.
Pop it. Lock it.
NFL as we roll right along in week 2. Let's jump right into this week's Fantasy Face-Off presented by Gemini Man, the ultimate showdown of youth versus experience, starring Will Smith as an elite assassin hunted by a younger, enhanced clone of himself.
Ooh.
Yeah, Brad and Tank are deciding between young versus old at the running back position in terms of filling out your daily fantasy rosters.
You're definitely on the young side because I'm ancient.
Yeah, true.
So-
But I've been told I look like a melanin enriched Will Smith, so I'll take that, Jimmy.
What, really?
Hey, that's what they say.
That's
word
high
on,
praise.
That's word on the street.
Only if you had the bank account of Will. But
Touche.
let's talk about LaShawn McCoy and Devin Singletary here. You got the old crusty. At least that's what I thought. I thought he was a fossilized triceratops.
I didn't.
You didn't?
Nah.
Look, he was one of the worst in terms of situation-free stats last year with the Buffalo Bills, but he looked refocused, rejuvenated, replenished in his debut with the Kansas City Chiefs last week, going over 90 combined yards on a limited snap share. And today now, Tank, you get the Oakland Raiders front that gave up 4.7 yards per carry to Denver Broncos running backs. Yeah, Damian Williams is there. He's going to be stealing away a lot of the red zone work, but I think Shady McCoy's got a great shot of flirting with the century mark and combined yardage and finding the end zone. But you also like
I like
Devin
Singletary, and the issue is that both of these guys have to split carries, but he's splitting carries with Thurman Thomas. Now, it may be Frank Gore, but they're about the same age.
Yeah.
Now, he only had 4 carries for about 7 yards, but he was in a lot of snaps.
Yep.
The dude looks explosive. He actually looks a lot like Shady. And we have to remember who they're going against, too. A Giants defense that was terrible last year. They still have Eli Manning with the Eli face, which means that they're going to have a lot of turnovers, and they're going to probably try to grind out the clock to get a win. So I expect him to get way more carries this week, which should up their production.
Yeah, so if you want to pay up in Yahoo DFS for some,
some
ballyhoo
guaranteed
veterans,
volume?
Yeah,
Yeah.
both only $14. I think they're excellent, flexy, sexy at a minimum choice this week.
Your GPP players right here for your tourneys.
I like McCoy. He's a big Singletary guy. Back to you.
Well, we let the Twitterverse decide for you guys. We threw up a poll, and here are the results. Devin Singletary
60-40?
wins. Yeah.
60-40, really?
60% Singletary.
Fade the noise.
Always.
Don't forget to check out Gemini Man in theaters Friday, October 11th. All right, so from Gemini Man to our own Libra Scorpio woman in Liz Loza. She has this week's edition of Fantasy Damage. She gives us some sleepers to target, starting with a couple of guys who call Maryland home, right, Liz?
That is right, and I am not on the cusp about any of these players. Let's start with a running back. It's Chris Thompson. Darius Geis, we know he's out recovering from another knee surgery in Florida. That means Adrian Peterson is in, which also means Jay Gruden is interested in only running him on early downs and when in an I formation. So Chris Thompson now has some exposure. We know that he's a beast in the passing game as well. He is a target monster. He's going to be a target monster in this one. Again, Case Keenum likes to check down. In week 1, Thompson led Washington in looks, caught 7 of 10 for 68 yards. I think that the Washington Redskins are going to be playing catch up quite a bit, especially versus this new high-flying Dallas offense. So look for him to be a nice flex play, especially in PPR-friendly leagues. He's the Yahoo consensus RB35 on the week. At wide receiver, now I know that Hollywood Brown and Miles Boykin, the rookies in Baltimore, are getting all of the love, but how about Willie Snead? Let's not forget, they are playing the Cardinals. Tremaine Brock and rookie Byron Murphy, who allowed 8 of 8 targets and 9 of 9 targets respectively. Danny Amendola ran roughshod over the Cardinals secondary. Willie Snead likes to spend his time in the slot. He is going to be sneaky good in this one. At a tight end position, you know how I love to throw darts at the tight end position. Here's one for you guys. Maybe you got Jordan Reeded. Maybe you got Hunter Henried. How about Ryan Griffin? No, not the backup quarterback, Ryan Griffin in Tampa Bay. The former Houston Texan tight end, now with the New York Jets, Ryan Griffin. He was on the field in week 1 for 94% of the team's snaps. He almost had a touchdown, but it was taken away because of a penalty. Trevor Siemian, as we all know, is going to be under center. That means a lot of checkdowns, and the matchup is amazing against the Browns, who were torched by Delaney Walker in week 1. So if you want to throw a dart, Ryan Griffin might be your guy. Also, keep an eye out for Chris Herndon. He's coming back soon.
Staying on the East Coast, we're going to dip into our next quick slant as the Seahawks are flying high into Pittsburgh, where the Steelers are licking their wounds from the 33-3 thumping they took from the Patriots last Sunday night. So, guys, could we see a breakout game for James Washington?
I think so, actually, because of the matchup going up against Trey Flowers, if he is presented with one. I mean, Flowers was the corpse Flowers. That's what he was last week against John Ross. He gave up a 145-plus passer rating. And like I said earlier in the program, the only highlight that Pittsburgh had was that 45-yard connection from Big Ben to Washington. So, this is a bounce-back opportunity for Ben, for Connor, for Dante Moncrief, who's been dropped in mass this week.
You don't want to see another 10 targets for Dante?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he gets that kind of workload, it could be 70, 75 yards and a TD. And after being dropped heavily this week, it could be one of the most acquired wide receivers.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if the dropping of Moncrief was an overreaction, but I think people being scared about James Conner, like, he's going to get his volume. I think he gets his volume this week. But what I'm looking forward to is home Ben Roethlisberger when he's at home, even though it's like one of those things where people think Vino and Crocs at home is weird, but it works. Like Ben Roethlisberger at home, like it works. Like I think James Washington goes off. Juju has a bounce back game. James Conner should get his volume. And so on the flip side of that offense is playing well, then we get to see Russell Wilson throwing around a lot. Tyler Lockett gets more than 2 targets. DK Metcalf does a little something.
Yeah. So, can we talk about the targets in Seattle? It was 7 to Chris Carson, so they weren't lying about that. Chris Carson is going to get looks as a receiver. It was 6 to DK Metcalf and no more than 2 for anybody else. You worried about Tyler Lockett at all?
I'm not worried about Tyler Lockett. One note related to this game, Joe Hayden is active. But whoever gets Mike Hilton in the slot is going to tee off. Yeah. So I do love DK Metcalf. One of my favorite prop bets on the board is the over on 47.5 receiving yards from the rookie.
Game flow should help Seattle pass catches.
We'll see. Should be a good one. Let's get a check of the interwebs with our friends in LA. What you got for us, guys?
We got a couple of questions from our chat, a couple of questions from you guys on Twitter, #AskFFL. Let's go with the first one here from Drew. Asks a quarterback question: Ben Roethlisberger in a bounce-back spot or Baker Mayfield on Monday night? Two guys who need a little rebound here in week 2.
They certainly do. I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger because I agree with Andy's point from earlier about the fact that I just don't think Baker Mayfield is going to need to sling it so much on Monday night, given all of the deficiencies that the Jets have now are going to have to overcome.
Yeah, I like Baker Mayfield for a bounce back in week 2, but I think I'm going to go with Ben Roethlisberger as well. I think that game has a much more back and forth potential with the Seahawks going into Pittsburgh there. Let's jump into our chat now to answer a few questions from you all. One I wanted to ask from YouTube, Liz, one of your favorite players versus one guy that I know you've kind of gone back and forth with a bit here. How about Kenny Golladay or Duke Johnson in week 2?
I knew you were going to pick that one. So I am going to lean towards, ready, wait for it, Miles Boykin 1.0, Kenny Golladay, because I like the red zone exposure here. And we do have Carlos Hyde working in on early down, so I don't like that as much in terms of touchdown potential.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Duke Johnson. I think, look, last week I did say I was going to fade T.Y. Hilton because of Casey Hayward, but I think we see more of Casey Hayward on Kenny Golladay in this spot than we did against T.Y. Hilton in week 1. We've got some person literally screaming at us over here on the monitor to please answer Robbie Anderson or John Ross, and sometimes screaming works, people. So what do we think? I'm going to go with John Ross.
Yes.
Get me out of the Jets. I don't want anything to do with any
Denzel
Jets
Ward, I don't want that matchup for Robbie Anderson either. So, yeah, give me I'm with you. Give me what was the other one?
John Ross.
John Ross, yes.
So we're just
revive John Ross.
Anything but Robbie
Anderson.
And last wide receiver question I want to hit from Jared on Twitter: Tyler Lockett or Alshon Jeffrey?
Ooh.
Tyler Lockett, 62% of his routes from the slot last week. As Brad was mentioning earlier, that's going to be the Mike Hilton matchup. 3 Patriots touchdowns came out of the slot in week 1. I think we see Tyler Lockett go off in this one.
I also agree.
Well, we've got even more lineup help. Thank you very much. We're going to hit the phones now. We know you've been patiently waiting for some play calling. Remember, the number to call is 877-FFL-GURU. Our first caller has been waiting for a very long time, so we appreciate your patience. Neil in Toronto, good morning.
Hi, guys.
What's that?
I got a question for you guys. I want to make it quick. So, Marquise Brown, flex question, half-point PPR. Marquise Brown, Mecole Hardman, Kenyon Drake, or Chris Thompson. I think it's good with your show. Thanks, guys.
Oh, imagine starting Kenyon Drake. Imagine starting any aspect of
Dolphin, for
Miami
that matter,
offense.
yeah.
I'm not doing it.
I wouldn't either. I mean, how many did he need out of that?
I'm
Just
assuming,
one?
I'm assuming he needs
one, right?
Oh, is it just one?
I thought it was one.
I think it's one, yeah.
I really like Chris Thompson here.
do
I
too.
think this is definitely going to be a Chris Thompson game. It's not going to surprise me at all if he has another 7-8 catches in this one. I'd probably lean that direction. I understand picking up Adrian Peterson, but this is not going to be the week for him.
Yeah, especially if it goes negative, which most of us are anticipating is going to be the case because that's secondary for Washington. Josh Norman, what happened to you, bro? A shell of what you used to be. Moreland, his tag team partner, gave up a perfect passer rating in the opening matchup for Washington. So that should actually play to the hands of Chris Thompson if they are dealing with a deficit.
And the reason I like Thompson, too, is because Evan Ingram went off, so obviously you want to think like, oh, it's going to be the tight end. But you can use a running back in the same role as a tight end, checking them down in that cover 2 and finding those holes, and I think Chris Thompson gets a ton of targets today.
Vernon Davis, like him too.
Yep.
All right, now we'll go to Lance in Oregon. Good morning, Lance. What's your question?
Hey, morning, guys. I'm wondering if I should start either Carson Wentz or Lamar Jackson. And my wife is up here, and she's pregnant, so I have to listen to her. And she wants to know if I should start, she should start Austin Hooper or Vance McDonald. Thanks, guys.
Smart man.
Yes.
Okay, so the wife has a real question.
Yeah,
here, right?
like the quarterbacks just flip a coin. I mean, I got him at 2 and 3 this week.
I have him at
ranked.
2 and 4. I think we all have Lamar Jackson as our number 2 quarterback,
Yes, correct.
right? You can do anything you want to Arizona's defense. They're without their 2 starting corners, and they gave up a ton on the ground last year. Lamar is just a great start.
Now, we've been talking about the bounce back for the Steelers, Tank. So are you on board with Vance McDonald over Austin Hooper, who caught all 9 of his targets week 1?
I would probably go with the Stanford man just because Stanford got demolished in college football yesterday. So I'm expecting for them to totally redeem themselves in the NFL, even though McCaffrey didn't do anything on Thursday. But yeah, I'm gonna go Hooper.
So we're starting
Even though
Kobe
both of them-
Fleener this week?
But both of them are in
Kobe
games
Fleener.
where there should be shootouts. I mean, you can see
Yeah.
Seattle, Pittsburgh shooting out as well as.
I got Hooper. That's my vote.
One promising thing about Vance McDonald last week, he did play 72% of the snaps, so maybe a little bit more of him than we thought we were going to see this year. I would probably lean McDonald. I just think it's I get it. Hooper's coming off a great game, but I think McDonald has a blow-up.
Yeah, but the Eagles gave up, 8.6 YPA to Case Keenum?
It's true.
Case Keenum? Hooper.
All right, we have time for one more. Brian in Chicago. Good morning.
Bear down.
Good morning, everyone. Got a flex question, wide receiver question, half-point PPR. Josh Gordon, Alshon Jeffrey, LaShawn McCoy, James White, Adrian Peterson.
Wow.
Wow.
Do we go with one of the 2 Patriots there?
Yeah.
Josh Gordon, James White?
I think we probably do. I'm going to go James White. You usually go Josh Gordon in these situations.
I'm the CEO of the Josh Gordon fan club, so that's the direction that I'm leaning. I don't think you could lose to either one of the Patriots.
Right.
I mean, the touchdown potential for anybody in a New England uniform is so substantial today. But I think Gordon, it's a similar output that he had in week 1. It's going to be a low volume, maybe 3-4 catches, 70-plus yards, and a TD.
But the good thing is, you get a touchdown. You get a touchdown.
Yeah, that's over.
Everybody gets a touchdown in Miami.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going Josh Gordon. Are you going to go another direction or no?
Hey, just pick a Patriot and you good.
Brandon Bolden?
Hey, he probably get one too.
Matt LaCosse?
Sammy Morris, Lawrence Maroney.
Corey Dillon.
Easy enough. All right, well, we need to step away for a few minutes, but when we return, we have even more awesome beats from the DJ in the back over there, and we're going to tell you all how to fade the noise.
Can we get bottle service? Somebody?
Hope everyone is enjoying this Sunday morning as we inch even closer to kickoff for the rest of week 2. Brad is no longer here, which means he's way over at the monitor to dispense his particular brand of gambling advice in a segment we love to call Fade the Noise.
Yes, and it was Huevos Gigantes last week with the over-unders, 2-0, impeccable against the spread. Not so much. So let's hopefully be on the right track this time around. Let's start off with a matchup between the Bears and the Broncos. Now, what's really interesting, I got an email this morning from the good folks at PointsBet. There was a $130,000 wager in New Jersey placed on the Chicago Bears minus 2.5. That is insane to me because the Broncos have won 18 of their last 19 home openers. I think the smart money wager here is actually the under, and here's the reason why. The Bears, they're under in 6 straight games, and the Broncos are under in their last 10 consecutive. It is going to be a war of attrition in this one. I'm thinking 3-2. Chicago wins this one on an Anthony Rizzo 3-run shot. So give me the under in that one. We got Eagles. We got Falcons. Now, what's really interesting here is the trend with Atlanta. They have not been covering machines. Actually, the exact opposite of that. 2-7 ATS last 7, or 2-5, excuse me, ATS last 7 at home. 2-7 ATS in their last 9 overall. The Philadelphia Eagles 4-1-1 ATS in their last 6 games. But I like the home squad here in the points, getting the plus 1.5 in a game that's got a lot of shootout appeal. I think Atlanta will take advantage of that. Again, that's secondary. The Eagles gave up 8.6 yards per attempt to Case freaking Keenum. All right, moving on to the Monday night affair. Was more interesting about 4 or 5 days ago, and then Sam Darnold was swap and spit with everybody in Jersey, apparently. Now he's down with a kissing disease. Le'Veon Bell not exactly 100%. Quentin Williams out. They're also missing some bodies in the linebacker core for the Jets. What's really fascinating is this line has been steamed up. It's already climbed to 6.5 in this one. So I'm actually going to take Cleveland. This is a get-right game, knowing all of the injuries, and I'm also taking the under here as well. I think it's going to be tough scoring for the New York Jets in this one, and the Browns defense, after that gross underachievement last week, will get back on track against T-Rex arms of Trevor Siemian. And then finally, let's do a prop bet, because you know I love the mad props, and it's Miles Sanders under the primetime lights. Will he rush for at least 41 or more yards? So does he get to 42 on the over? I say yes at minus 115. He led all Philadelphia Eagles running backs with a 48% snap share. If he didn't have a run call back on a holding penalty, it was a beautiful run, he would have found the end zone. So don't look at last week's box score and say, this guy is sheepish, he's not living up to the hype. This could be the breakout performance for him, though it's still a rotational backfield. I think around 13 touches for Sanders tonight, but he'll sail past 42 rush yards. So you want to make that mucho dinero, lay a little action on the rookie out of Penn State. Back to you, Borges.
I feel like Sam Darnold will never live this mono thing down, and I feel bad for him. I feel very bad for him.
He's got a lot of money in the bank. He's
All right,
fine. He's good.
One person who doesn't gamble when it comes to the wideout position is Matt Harmon. Each week he crunches the numbers to give you one receiver he likes and one he doesn't. So Matt, who do you like this week?
You know, it came to me as I was setting my daily fantasy lineup this week, which obviously was such a smash in week 1. You know, you should definitely take my advice. I was really wanting to load up on the Rams and Saints game, but of course, as I talked about earlier in Quick Slants, a lot of those guys are high priced because we know where the ball is going. I needed a value, and to me, Christian Kirk at just $13 really looked like an appealing pick, and I'll tell you why. Obviously because the opportunity we expected to see in Arizona was there. Things really flowed through Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, especially both these guys were top 12 in air yards at the wide receiver position in week 1. Kirk himself at 139, which was 12th among all pass catchers. And also, we saw both of these guys line up a ton in the slot because they run that 4 wide receiver set in Arizona. 88% of his snaps came from the slot in week 1. And look, the Ravens have a great defense. We know that, but their cornerback Jimmy Smith is going to be out. Actually, all of these cornerbacks were on the injury report in week 1. And Tavon Young, their top slot corner, is out for the entire season. So I like Kirk as a punt bargain play in DFS. And one guy that I'm going to ask you all to please do better than this for yourself. Expect better than 14 catches for 99 yards. I don't care about 14 catches for Jamison Crowder. Obviously, as I said earlier, I'm out of this entire Jets pass-catching group, but Jamison Crowder especially, come on. I don't care if you're getting 14 little bunny hop catches. You should want more from that from your lineup. I don't care about that. Wide receiver 3, give me a break. No, I think you need to shoot a little higher than that. Shoot for someone that's got a better touchdown ceiling, and with an implied total of under 20 points, I don't think Jamison Crowder's finding the end zone. And look, this is the night you're probably going to get slapped with like a 4-catch for 21-yard performance out of a little short area slot receiver. Give me a break. Expect better for yourselves, please.
Very inspirational, Matt. Thank you very much. From analytics to whatever it is that Tank uses to stack the best daily fantasy lineup.
Because they are the best.
Here's our resident jokester dispensing his picks for the week. I hope it's better than your Browns defense pick last week.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm still where I need to be. It's your resident baller on the budget. And we're in week 2, and I think we're already in the upside down because I have way too many Raiders on this list for this to turn out well. But shout out Nicole. Hello. So, first off, Derek Carr at $26 now. Derek Carr, well, first let's get to Gardner Minshew. Because Gardner Minshew was like running down the field like Smokey and the Bandit on the Chiefs last week. And Derek Carr actually played well against the Chiefs at home last year. I think he had 285, 3 tubs. Now, everybody was all like, Derek Carr's the man. Like, I thought he played okay. But when you're going against Pat Mahomes, you got to put the ball up that much. He has a really good opportunity to throw up some fat points for $26. Moving on, we going to my man, Mark Ingram in Baltimore. Now, they're the most run-heavy team in the league, or one of them, going against the worst run defense in the league last year. And check this out. They're 13-point favorites. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals 10 o'clock their time, West Side. And so I expect them to get a heavy doses of Mark Ingram, and he's only $23. Yeah, he's going to be a volume muncher today, so go ahead and put him in your lineup. Now, wide receiver, we going with my cousin. Oh, well, we're going to go to the tight end, Darren Waller, because he's playing against the Chiefs, and they were like the second worst team against the tight end last year. He had like 7 for 70 last week. And if you look at what Jared Cook did last year when they played against the Chiefs at home, he had like 7 for over 100 in the tub. So I really like Waller in this matchup. Now, moving on, we're going to see who we pop up next. That's my cousin, Tyrell Williams. And so you saw that he balled out last week. And obviously, we're going against the Chiefs. So we're going with the triple Chief stack with my cousin, Waller, and Carr. And I expect, him to get his fair share of targets and tubs, because who else they gonna throw it to besides Williams and Waller? No Renfro. Nuh-uh. Then on my defense, we got the Dallas Cowboys, and I know Mandy B was hating on my Cleveland Browns selection, but it made sense last week. But check this out. Case Keenum threw for 380 yards and 3 tubs last week. But let me tell you something. His stats in his career are 67 touchdowns, 42 picks, 22 fumbles. Now, do you expect him to repeat what he did last week or what he's done throughout his career? I'm going to choose the latter. So how about them Cowboys? I'm out.
Well, in case you all missed it, Tyrell Williams is Tank's cousin. Did anyone catch that?
You know you can pick
Mike
players
Evans is
from
mine.
other
I don't know if
games
you knew
too,
that,
right? You don't
so.
have to pick an
Hey, we going to full-on Raider stack. Live by the gun, die by the gun.
My God. That's
Let's
Team
take
Wales.
a gander at the standings of our season-long group challenge. This is fun. After the opener last week, Andy has the early lead.
I think we've seen this
Dalvin
before.
Cook and Chris Carson.
Yeah, we have.
Well, we're seeing it
What's
again.
going on with Harmon?
I don't think we've ever seen a 70 before.
I mean, he's breaking new ground.
Matt, what's happening at the bottom down there? Is everything okay?
That little thing floating at the bottom of the
Gotta
toilet
be a
bowl.
contest
Hey,
to which he can
everything
be
is fine
relegated.
over here. Thank you.
Okay. We're just checking in to make
Should we just
sure
call him Miami Matt? Is that what we should call him?
He might ignore us for the rest of the show now, and that's fine.
I get it if he's tanking for the first pick in the challenge that next
Tanking for Tua. That's what Harmon's doing.
Don't forget to enter the $1 Million Baller contest on Yahoo DFS. There's no management fee, and $100,000 goes to first place. Head to yahoo.com/dailyfantasy. Now, one player who wasn't a baller in week 1, much to the dismay of Brad Evans, was Bears running back David Montgomery. He had just 7 touches in their loss to Green Bay. They're going on the road to face Denver, who gave up more than 350 total yards to the Raiders. So, can Montgomery bounce back and go for more than 65 total yards today? Brad, let's start with you.
Oh, let's play the old reverse reverse psychology card because I desperately need mandatory Montgomery to happen. I'm talking to you, Matt Nagy. I will pick it outside the stadium later today if you don't get my guy at least 14 touches in this one. But it's hard to believe anything that comes out of the mouth of Nagy right now. You know, Mike Davis is heavily involved in this rotation. A guy that could once again see right around 50% of the snaps played, though it was a bunch of 2 yards and a cloud of dust, whether it was on the ground or through the air. Meanwhile, Montgomery, 3.50 yards after contact per attempt. That's right, drink, Loza. But I am taking the under, and I'm hoping for the best here with my boy Montgomery. Again, reverse psychology. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Now, Noy's been riding Montgomery like Seabiscuit all offseason, and then you gonna go with the under?
Hey, man.
Come on, dog.
Fade the noise. I'm trying to fade myself here.
Now, listen, Nagy needs to get his act together because we saw what Mr. Trubisky did and didn't do in that last matchup. So he's going to run the ball heavily because he doesn't want Vic Fangio blitzing the hell out of Mitch. So I expect a heavy dose of the run game. And look what Josh Jacobs did last week. The dude had like 23 carries, 80 yards, 2 tubs. So he may not get that volume, but he's going to go over 64.5. So I'm going with the over.
Liz?
All right. If David Montgomery doesn't go over this line, then the Bears and I are going back to counseling, and that is expensive. We're in a good place right now. I mean, as good as a place as I can be with them. So I do think this answer is over.
There we
yes,
go.
Vic Fangio knows the Bears offense better than anyone else, but what one piece is he not sure of? That's David Montgomery. Different regime, buddy. So I agree with Tank. There's going to be a heavy dose of the run game. Nagy has had extra time. He's going to review that tape. He's going to say, Mike Davis can't get that first down. You know who can? David Montgomery. Brad's number is absolutely right. You got to imagine that David Montgomery sees at least 14 touches. If he does that, he can go over this line. And Josh Jacobs had over 100 total yards against the Broncos in week 1. Let's do this.
Once again, we win.
I hope you guys are right. Seriously, I need it. My brand needs this.
The reverse jinx. I know
That's
what
right.
you're doing.
That's
I know
what
what you're
I'm
doing. I got you. I feel you.
I like it. Well, both the Chiefs and the Raiders head into their matchup in the black hole at 1-0. The Raiders looked good last week despite all the distractions in training camp. Now we'll put 90 seconds on the clock for Liz and Matt and see who they're watching in this one.
Yeah, I said that I liked Derek Carr a lot earlier, and that remains true. I haven't changed my mind that fast. But Josh Jacobs is actually someone that I'm really excited about, too, because you guys were just talking about him earlier, what he did against the Broncos in week 1. I love that it was pretty much just his backfield. You know, he sees over 20 touches. The rest of the running backs just see 3 combined. That was great to see. He got a first down on almost 35% of his touches. That was a top 6 mark among guys that had 10-plus carries in week 1.
And Gruden said he wants to continue to run him,
Let's
which is not necessarily what happens with rookies in their first season, at least off the bat this soon into the season. Also, it's worth mentioning that this game has the highest projected point total of any game of the week, so you want to focus on it, as Tank did in your DFS lineup. Darren Waller, $13 in DFS, played 100% of the snaps in week 1. He is absolute money. Led the team too with 8 looks and caught 7 of those balls for 70. Should we talk about Kansas City? Because why are we giving all this attention to the Raiders?
Right. What are we doing? And I think the big question on Kansas City's side is, do we really believe in Sammy Watkins? And
I know you got to take lock. Go for it.
I got take lock on Sammy Watkins. I can't do it. We've seen this happen before. I'm not trying to just assume that this is the year. Everything is different. We've seen him have blow-up games before and then go right back to the wayside. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm not saying he's going to completely disappear, but everybody's got wide receiver 1 locked. The rest of the
But here's my thought, Matt. I mean, yes, everyone's really high on McCole Hardman to replace Tyreek Hill, who's going to be out for a couple of weeks. But DeAnthony Thomas, another speedster, was suspended in week 1, and Andy Reid even said that he was going to use both Hardman, the rookie, and Thomas in unison to replace the hole left by Tyreek Hill. So that to me means more volume for Sammy Watkins, although who cares? The tight end here, Travis Kelce is the story. Absolute tight end when should be consensus amongst the industry. I have him projected for 8 catches and 104 yards and a tub. Let's give it all to him. And I'm also interested in the Kansas City backfield. We should talk about that a little bit because Damian Williams did have more touches, also more usage in the passing game, which is interesting than LaShawn McCoy. But LaShawn McCoy, and he got the red zone look, the goal line look. But LaShawn McCoy was much more efficient.
Looked better.
Yeah, looked a lot better. He had, I think, he averaged 8 yards per carry. So I think that McCoy may be ascending as he works his way back into Andy Reid's stable of buddies.
I like it. A quick adjacent slant.
We've got to step aside again for a short break, but when we return, these guys will tell us which players will be off their game. Ooh.
Oh, Tank, you're not off your game.
Never
Break it
off
down,
my
brother.
game.
Break it down.
Welcome back, everybody. Last week, Tank saw firsthand just how off their game the entire Cleveland Browns team was. So many Browns jokes today. So who will be off their game this week? These players are started in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues that will leave fantasy owners sad, unfortunately. So Andy, let's start with you.
I might be wish casting a little bit here because I'm facing Aaron Rodgers in a couple leagues, but I don't think this is the week to lean on him. He gets Minnesota. Minnesota, one of 3 defenses last year that actually allowed less than 200 passing yards per game. Of course, they looked great. They looked absolutely great against Atlanta in week 1, at least through 3 quarters, until they gave up some meaningless yards late in that thing. This is a really good defense. Rodgers last year only threw 2 touchdown passes in 2 games against the Vikings. Hasn't really gone off against that defense since the peak years of Jordy Nelson. So I think if you have viable options, you can leave Rodgers on the bench in this one.
Tank?
Just waiting for my ISO cam. All right, there we go.
He's got to see his face.
Yeah, you know, we're pretty. We're so pretty. I'm going with Deshaun Jackson. Now, this isn't anything about the matchup because we really don't know what the Falcons could do since Mr. Dalvin did the 8-time stomp all over their defense and Kirk only threw the ball 10 times. But he fulfilled the revenge narrative last week, and so usually what he does after he balls out, he disappears. Now, he could prove me wrong, but that's what I'm expecting. And then also, we know Wentz has eyes for my Stanford man, Zach Ertz, and so I'm expecting him and Alshon Jeffrey to get a lot of targets. Therefore, D-Jax may be a little cool and chill this week.
That's a good call on that one. And recency bias is a thing. My guy is Devonta Freeman, so same game, different name. He only played on 50% of the snaps last week. Ito Smith greatly outperformed him. The guy only had 1.70 yards after contact per attempt. he has not been fantasy relevant since weeks 13 through 17 of 2017. So, maybe he's starting to take a little bit of a backseat. Maybe he's lost a step, but I don't like the matchup either. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles with Fletcher Cox there in the trenches, giving up just 2.2 yards per carry to Washington running backs a week ago. Plus, we can't forget that Chris Lindstrom, the starting right guard for the Atlanta Falcons, is on IR. So they're already reshuffling that offensive line. And this is not going to be a get-right game for Freeman. And he is somebody that is firmly outside my top 24. I even have him outside my top 30 this week.
Well, we've got some more fam love for Tank. We're going to talk about his cousin a little bit more.
Yeah.
We've got another over-under. Raiders wide receiver Tyrell Williams thrived in their opener versus Denver. 105 yards and a touchdown. Now he's facing another division rival in Kansas City at home today. So can Williams at least hit the 70-yard mark? Andy, we'll start with you.
Oh, yes, he can. I'm going to take the over in this one. Really like Tyrell here. First of all, he has a 1,000-yard season on his resume already. Went over 100 yards last week. Gets Kansas City. They give up 347 passing yards in the opener. The second worst pass defense in terms of yards against last season. I think Tyrell does it again.
Yeah, I'm going to go in lockstep with Barron's here. Look, Charvarius Ward is going to be the primary assignment for Tyrell Williams in this one. And Ward last week targeted 7 times, gave up 7 receptions for 123 yards, a whopping 3.51 yards per snap. Yes, Tyrell will be the number 1. Hey, Tank, how you doing? And I agree that he sails past this number. I think he finds the end zone, too.
Matt, do we have a sweep?
We have a sweep. Tyrell Williams is good. He's better than guys like DJ Chark, Dede Westbrook, Chris Conley, and all those guys torched the Chiefs last week. Yeah, Tyrell Williams is going to clear this very nice number by a good amount. I expect him to go for another 100 yards in this game.
Well, Matt clearly cares about Tyrell Williams hitting that mark today, but what doesn't he care about? It's time for Don't Care, focusing on the upcoming Sunday night game between the Eagles and the Falcons.
Yeah, I don't care about all this tilt about Devonta Freeman. Brad was just out there propagating the negative agenda against Devonta Freeman. But let me tell you this. I expect Freeman to get right back to being a starting caliber RB1, fringe type of guy, maybe RB2, RB1.
You don't have to sell me, sell them.
I'm telling you, people, this is what you all out there, you people, don't understand, is that what happened last week, Dan Quinn said that it was just a game flow situation, not about Freeman fumbling. I have this quote here from Vaughn McClure, who covers the Falcons for ESPN. It was all about that, just the game flow. And I don't think that's going to happen here against the Eagles. It's only a 1-point line here with the Falcons at home. I know that there are offensive line injuries, but give me a break. This is one of the highest totals on the entire slate. I'm not benching a team's starting running back in a game like that. I think we come out of this seeing Freeman catch a few balls, maybe get into the end zone one time. He's a guy that I'm feeling very confident. I do not care about all this Devonta Freeman tilt. Give me Freeman in my lineup this week.
I don't care about all of this Darren Sproles hand-wringing. Oh my gosh, guess what, Matt? I don't know if you're aware of this, but Philadelphia likes to use a platoon in their backfield. Oh, if anything, Jordan Howard, thank you for getting out of the way. Miles Sanders, the rookie that everyone was excited about in the pre-draft August process, pre-fantasy draft process, was he outsnapped all of them on the field for 48% of the team snap. He got goal line looks. I loved that. And I think that things are going to even out. He is going to start to ascend up this roster as well. The matchup, awesome. Falcons, also don't know if you know this, they're kind of easy against the run. I don't know. That's a stat I've heard before.
I feel that they've given up quite a lot of receptions, perhaps the most receptions to running backs in each of the last
Yeah, so the
seasons.
matchup is awesome. I do tell you, I do care about something in this one, and I do care about Zach Ertz's usage in this one. He did get a good number of looks in week 1. He almost had a touchdown, right? Some run in the red area of the field. However, D-Jax got most love. Dallas Goedert is out there as well. I'm not quite sure that Ertz doesn't become, because of volume issues, a touchdown-dependent play, which is not great if you drafted him in the 3rd round of your fantasy draft. I have him projected for 4 receptions, 58 yards, and no tub.
So we're going to be looking at like Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, or Zach Ertz questions here soon enough.
I think that's going to happen.
How alarming. I think people will definitely care about that.
Thanks, guys. We've got to step away for our final break of the program. But when we come back, we'll get to more of your roster questions. Stay with us.
Viva Boston.
Welcome back. We are getting ever so close to the early games kicking off, and one of those early matchups features an AFC South battle where both teams surprised in Week 1. The Titans quickly shut down the Browns hype train, while the Colts battled the Chargers tooth and nail in their first game without Andrew Luck. They square off today in Tennessee. So, gentlemen, I asked, what are we watching for?
Well, before we get to the fantasy stuff, they're retiring Eddie George and Steve McNair's jersey in Tennessee this week. Yeah, so I mean, big ups to those guys. Mean a lot to the organization, but now let's get to the fantasy goodness.
Well, Derrick Henry was quite the sensation in Week 1, and a lot of it in the pass game on one play. That 75-yarder on a design screen. He would basically untouched all the way to the end zone.
6 different Browns made the business decision not to get in front of Derrick Henry on that too.
He's a large man. We're not going to go low on
I can't be doing this Week 1.
I mean, Derrick Henry is firmly inside my top 10. We mentioned briefly Marlon Mack, earlier in the program, and I am down on Marlon Mack this week. I think the workload's going to be there. I think it's like 80 total yards. I mean, he didn't catch a ball last week, no touchdown. The one thing about this Tennessee Titans defense is it's legit. Yeah. It's very underrated, and I think people are going to come to that conclusion. They're going to have that epiphany maybe after this week. I think this is a very rock-solid defensive unit as a whole, and they're going to prove it today against the Colts.
No confidence in Mariota, though, right? Like, just off of one game?
I have him in a super flex, but I'm also sick in the head, so, you know.
Good to see a really nice week from Delaney Walker, too. A couple of touchdowns last week. Maybe those are 2 of the 4 touchdowns that he's going to give us this year, as he often does, but good to see him bounce back from injury.
Yeah, and if you flip it to the other side, like the Titans were 6th against the pass last year, so I mean, you're looking at it may not be the best matchup for Brissett, but one person I am looking at is T.Y. Hilton. Like, regardless of who he plays in the AFC South, he always balls, whether it's the Texans, whether it's the Titans. I think he had like 2 touchdowns and over 120-something yards in one of the games last year against the Titans. So T.Y. Hilton always does.
One last note, you want a shot in the dark? Watch out for Deion Kane, who's going to elevate into the starting lineup ahead with Devin Funchess now on, he's not on IR, but he's on the sidelines with that clavicle.
The Colts have won 11 of the last 13 against the Titans. Those 2 losses came when Jacoby Brissett was under
more 8-12,
So I hope that's not bad juju for them, but we will see. All right, well, we want to check in on our social feeds one last time. So Liz and Matt, you got anything good for us?
do have a couple questions from Twitter, and the first one is a nice little running back debate, Liz. Matt Breida versus Cincinnati or Devin Singletary versus the Giants? Richard needs to know. He needs to know.
Well, as high as I am on Devin Singletary, having already talked him up in the show, I am going to lean towards Matt Breida. He is my RB21 on the week, and I've got Singletary at about RB25, 26 in that area. So I think with Tevin Coleman out, you just have to lean on Breida, who looked amazing in the preseason.
I know. This is why you drafted Matt Breida, for moments like this when everyone else gets hurt and he just never sits on the sideline, even when he's hurt. He's the Wolverine of NFL running backs. Second question here from Jay Guy, I don't know, someone on Twitter asks, who should I start, Kerryon Johnson or Mark Ingram? I feel like we are going to go against Kerryon Johnson once again, because, I mean, I love Mark Ingram in this spot. They're such huge favorites over the Cardinals, and the Cardinals' defense is a total train wreck.
And you have to imagine that Baltimore is going to want to play keep away from Kyler Murray, so that's more opportunities. Although I think Gus Edwards might be a sneaky, like, RB3 situation here, especially in a standard scoring league because of his exposure near the goal line. But I, too, am going to lean towards Mark Breida because I do not need C.J. Anderson messing up my Kerryon Johnson life.
No, you don't need that in your life. We're going to take one more question from our chat feed because despite what you people are out there chirping about, we are paying attention to the chat. And also, one note, Liz, we are going to be here all day. During the halftime segments of each game, we will be with you guys doing a stream during the early game halftime, the late game halftime, and our podcast is streaming too. You got Liz and Harmon in your life all day paying attention to these chats. But before we sign off, I want to hit this one question because I thought it was a good one. Would you play Hollywood Brown or Michael Gallup in your flex spot?
Oh, I like this one, and I am going to go with Michael Gallup. I do like what Kellen Moore has done to the Dallas offense. Hollywood Brown did not see that many touches, and he is a little bit banged up, a little bit of a hip, so I will always take the healthier player over the one that is maybe a little bit bruised.
We are in lockstep, and we will be in lockstep.
I don't know about that.
We'll at least be here together all day, so make sure to keep it tuned on the Yahoo Sports Fantasy app and, of course, on your Twitter feed for all of our halftime shows today.
Thank you, guys. We've got some time for a few more phone calls. Remember, the number is 877-FFL-GURU. Let's go to our friend Dave in Wisconsin. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning, all. It's good to be back in fantasy season.
It is indeed.
My question is, I know Joe Mixon is playing. Should I start Gio Bernard anyways, or would I be better off with one of these backups? Justin Jackson, Malcolm Brown, or Raheem Mostert?
For me, it's Malcolm Brown.
That's a fun question. I fully agree on Malcolm Brown. It sure seems like he's going to continue to get goal line work going forward. And again, there's going to be huge numbers in that game.
Yeah, 5 red zone touches last week. Highly efficient in that area of the field. Scored a couple of times. I think he's got a really good shot of finding the end zone again. And just like you said, it's a high over-under total. It's the highest on the board. So I think you've got to have some action in that game.
Samesies, more questions.
Yep.
All right, I think we do have time for one more. We're going to go to Jeff in Texas. Good morning, Jeff. What's your question?
Hello, Gurus. Rex Burkhead or Philip Lindsay?
What was the first name?
Rex Burkhead. Maximize a matchup. I'm going Burkhead. You can't play any Denver Broncos today. Absolutely none should be in the lineup.
I fully agree. The Bears defense basically only gave up one play last week, so you can't start out.
They gave up one play, and Miami gave up every play.
Yes, right. Even if it's only like 10 touches for Burkhead, one of those is going to the house.
Yeah, he had 32 snaps last week.
All right, staying in Texas, we've got Steven in Houston. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. I have a question. PPR and non-PPR. Shady McCoy or Sony Michel? I'm afraid to get burned again. Michel.
Well, I like both these guys, but as we've said, it's going to be the Oprah defense of the Miami Dolphins. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown, Sony Michel.
Yeah, it's a get-right week for Sony Michel after a terrible game.
All right. We have Will in Detroit. Good morning, Will.
Hello?
Motown.
Hello.
Good morning. What's your question?
Oh,
Hello.
hi. Hi, sorry. It's Doug in Detroit. I've been going back and forth. I got Zach Ertz at Atlanta or Mark Andrews versus Arizona.
Ooh. Tank, can you put your Stanford love aside?
Yeah, I can't be a homer with this one, dog. I got to go Mark Andrews.
Yes.
I mean, he has the best matchup. He's probably going to get the most volume. I like Andrews all day, and especially on Sunday.
Andrews is my vote.
Yeah, and we all saw what Hawkinson just did to Arizona.
Historic day!
That's the same spot that Andrews gets in this one. You got to go Andrews. I'd like to flex Ertz if I could. I'm not sure if he's got the ability to.
Dang, we just said Andrews over Ertz. It really is the upside down.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for calling in. We really appreciate your patience waiting for us to answer your questions. One final thing we want to get to. We want to ask all of you what you're looking forward to today. Matt and Liz, let's start with you.
I think what I'm looking forward to most in week 2 is just kind of the continuation of the story, right? Week 1 can be such a time for overreaction. You know, things are completely thrown out of whack, but you know, we do know that things tend to normalize eventually, and I want to see some of these storylines. You know, TJ Hawkinson is a breakout every week star. Are we going to see that more? Are we going to see more of this Raiders offense look better than we thought? You know, it was week 1 just a scattershot, doesn't mean anything sort of situation, or are we following more trends here in week 2? That's what I'm paying attention to most today.
This show has been horribly low on Garden Minshew talk. I am sorry. That is what I am most excited for. Heading into this season, I was excited to see what John DeFilippo, a coach who got fired for not putting the ball on the ground, would do in Jacksonville, an offense that's known for being notoriously conservative. I love what he's doing. Aaron Colvin just got fired. Matt mentioned it earlier. The Texans secondary coming off of a short week. I think Dede Westbrook is in an awesome position here. I like him in DFS. I like him as a flex. I love that Minshew is fearless. I like Chris Conley. I like DJ Shark, but I love Chris Conley. I am very excited about the Jacksonville game, even though I never care if I go to Florida ever again. At me.
I love it. We were just talking about Gardner Minshew. Are you watching Minshew today, or who are we paying?
Well, I am, but I'm also paying attention to Kyler Murray because I want to see what he does coming off that white-hot fourth quarter and overtime. Now you're in enemy territory against the Baltimore Ravens. If he comes out and puts up a top 10 fantasy performance, he is going to be locked in that position the rest of the season.
I'm looking forward to a little bit of shake and bake. OBJ, Baker Mayfield, all those boys in New York, let's get it.
Yeah, give me Miles Sanders. I'm totally with you on the big game that is forthcoming from Sanders. Great to see him have such an edge in snaps last week.
Over!
Yeah.
Are you just saying the Baker thing because you had so much fun in Cleveland?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. That makes
DJ, play my Ride Now music.
That'll do it for week 2 of Fantasy Football Live. Don't forget, we're here every Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 Pacific, right here on Yahoo Sports.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you
Bring
so
it
much
out,
for
Tank.
joining us.
Oh, yeah. There he goes.
Oh,
booty popping. Booty popping.
We too hot for the internet. We too hot for the internet.
Good luck this week, everybody.